And welcome back. We have our first guest in the Enterprise Block. What's the Enterprise Block? The Enterprise Block is where people make money. The Charity Block, those are your 501c3s, your 501c4s, chambers of commerce, candidates for office, etc. This is the Enterprise Block. And today we have Joe Connelly, RIA. Joe, where are you from? Originally
from the New England area.
New England?
Yes, sir.
Where I mean, New England's a big place.
In the Boston area.
In the Boston area.
Rosendale, okay. Massachusetts.
All right. I'm familiar. Half my family's from North Attleboro, but I used to get up there when I was a kid. But that's what brought you to Florida?
Brought me to Florida was the wonderful sunshine and the lack of snow. I figured I could always get back on an airplane if I wanted to see snow again.
I can't think of a better reason. Now, Joe does something that's really interesting. I think it's interesting. I don't know whether you will or not, but you're going to get my story anyway. Those of you who were here for when we were known at that time as Hurricane Central, 2004, 2005, anywhere from Hurricane Jean all the way through Hurricane Wilma, we know that we all struggled with getting our roofs repaired, our walls repaired, the flood damage, the mud out of the basements. We don't have basements in Florida, but some people do, and they had mud. And there were so many issues in interacting with our insurance companies and getting the work done on a timely basis for the most part. My disaster occurred on my roof in October of 2005, which was Hurricane Wilma.
That's correct.
And I didn't have a new roof until April of 2007. So that'll give you an idea of how the interaction went for me. But the tiles weren't available. So it wasn't the insurance company's fault, it wasn't the adjuster's fault, it wasn't the contractor's fault. There was so many roofs that were lost down here, there were no tiles. So we had to wait for tiles. In that overall experience that many of us had, what was your role? And what do you see your role in the future? Compliance has changed, rules, laws have changed. Where do you fit? Because you have a unique way I look at it.
We do. We actually have a license to adjust insurance claims, and we only represent property owners. So when property owners have a claim and they struggle with understanding their policy language, as well as how to present what the damages are to bring their home or their business back to pre-loss condition, they would reach out to us to advocate for them. And it's changed quite a bit. It actually started back in 1992 with Hurricane Andrew, which we're coming up on a very big anniversary for Hurricane Andrew. And it played itself into the 2004 and the 2005 season, along with 2008, which was Tropical Storm Faye that everybody tends to forget about.
Sure.
And so what happened is, unfortunately, a lot of the language and policies has been changed. And every insurance carrier out there has a different language. And as policyholders, yourself as a homeowner and a business owner, your policies on those two locations, you have to interpret that, and then you have to apply how does that fit your particular situation, whether it be a hurricane or the day-to-day things such as water damage or an unfortunate fire that might happen, or if it's something that was a breaking and entering that happened in your house. These are all related to the insurance claim process, and we're able to help people out, advocate to get things done the proper way.
So if I understand this correctly, you represent the policy holder in making sure that they get their claims resolved within their contract with the insurer. For example, I don't want to mention names. I lived in Columbus, Ohio for 30 years. That's the home of Nationwide Insurance, and you're probably in good hands with them as well. I'm sure that's probably somebody else's slogan. I'm sure it is. But you represent the homeowner so that they can interpret their own policy and negotiate with their insurance company in a more effective manner.
Exactly, and the effective manner is we're actually negotiating exclusively for that property owner. They've asked us to step in and interpret that policy, take a look at the damages. So we're familiar with the building codes and how a house or a commercial property needs to be put back together after a claim event. So you first have to break it down into two simple steps, and it's a lot of sub-steps underneath each. You need to first see if you have coverage, if it's a covered peril is the proper terminology, and then from there you need to present what it is that is damaged based upon building code and based upon the allowance of whatever occurred and whatever accident occurred in that structure.
Okay. Of course, the insurance companies are regulated by the insurance commissioner in Tallahassee. Are you regulated, and do you have to remain in compliance and licensed by the same insurance commissioner, or is it a different?
No, it's the same commissioner, and we are regulated rather heavily. We're actually regulated probably, if you take a look at the whole entire country, United States, of who gets regulated, they all get regulated state by state. Florida has probably the most regulation for my license. So there's a lot of ethical standards that we have to meet. I belong to a state-run association. I actually happen to be a board member of that association as well as the chairperson of the educational committee. And so what we're doing is making sure that how we're representing property owners out there are staying in compliance not only with what the state is asking us with all their heavy compliance, which is good compliance. It keeps the process fair and even for everybody. But it's also taking it a step further with our own association to make sure that we're representing people in a time of crisis, and so that we can bring that crisis to a quicker resolution using negotiations of understanding policy language, building code, and what the damage is in that particular property.
You used an interesting word, crisis. Usually when these events occur, the crisis occurs in the pocketbook. Do we pay you a fee for this, or is your remuneration, does that come from the insurance policy itself? How does that work?
Yeah, I wish it would come out of the insurance policy, but obviously my fee is paid for by representation by the policyholder, and my fee, it's actually regulated by the state. You're only allowed to charge up to 20% of any monies that are recovered. My fee is generally lower than that. I'm somebody very well known in the community, and I try to give back to the community. I try to take each case and try to look at it as to how we could create a win-win for both sides. I want to be able to advocate for that person, but I want them to be able to put their home and their business back together. During a state of emergency, we actually had the tropical storm Colin recently come through Florida. And so the governor declares a state of emergency, and anything related to that storm, you'd be capped at a 10% fee for any type of services.
Okay.
So there is a lot of regulation that occurs.
So those events, Jean, Francis, Charlie, and Wilma, those were events that came to that threshold.
That's correct.
So the maximum that we would be obligated out of pocket would be 10% of the recovery.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I like to think in terms of my deductibles and things like that. I'm going to put some money aside. Maybe I should put some money aside for my fee that I might be paying you, or you can buy an insurance policy today for pre-need funeral care.
Sure.
Okay. Can I buy an insurance policy to pay you? So I have money safely set aside?
That might be a good market that we might want to start.
That's a new policy.
That's a new policy.
There we go.
But normally what it would come down to is this. The insurance companies, they're sending out representation to represent their interest. And generally, I can get that claim amount more advantageous to a policyholder because they don't sometimes can appreciate how to take policy language and match it up to building code.
Keep those feet to the fire.
Keep the feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Well, Joe, it's really been a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you.
Do you have any events coming up soon? Are you involved in any golf tournaments, any charitable events that are coming up that you want everybody to know about?
Well, there is something coming up. The Realtor Association of Martin County, they're actually going to be promoting personal safety, which is in the month of September.
In September.
And we're actually going to have some guest speakers come speak with us about personal safety, and we're producing a video to make sure that the realtors and other affiliates that are out there working in our community are aware to make sure that they put themselves in a position where they're not going to get into any type of danger.
Well, send us your information. We'll be glad to put it up in Out2's announcements and events section, and everybody will be fully appraised of the
That'd
event.
be great.
And
I appreciate that.
be able to participate.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe, for being with us.
Thank you.
And we'll be
Appreciate it,
back.
Jack.